Good evening. I want to welcome you to the Greer City Council meeting this evening. This is a regularly scheduled and called Greer City Council meeting, called and convened this evening, October 10th, 2017. Having called the meeting to order, I would like to ask if you will stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, after which Councilman Lee Dumas will lead the council in an invocation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this great night that you've given us, for the rain, much needed, and we're appreciative for that. Thank you for this council that you've assembled here, Lord. We each have unique strengths and gifts and abilities, and we ask that you bring those together tonight and collectively do great things for the city. Pray for those that are serving the city right now, and just be with us, Lord, and help us for all that we do it to your will and for your glory. Amen.
Amen.
We thank you for joining us this evening. We set aside a time at the first of the meeting for public forum, a chance for you to address council if you choose to do so and sign up in the appropriate manner. Ms. Duncan, do we have anybody indicate they wanted to speak in public forum this evening?
No, sir.
With that, then, we'll move to the minutes of the council meeting from September the 26th, 2017. I'll entertain a motion that they be received.
So motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any items of note for the clerk? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Airwood?
Yes.
Ms. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes. Next item before us this evening is the administrator's report. Mr. Driggers?
Thank you, sir. Members of council, a couple of calendar items. Do recall that the month of October is our open enrollment period for all employees of the city relative to our benefits, and if there are any changes that our employees need to make to those programs, this open enrollment period is the time that should be done. So again, that will run through October 31st. A couple of events I want to make sure that we have on our calendars. Beginning this Friday, we have our employee safety breakfast. Safety recognition breakfast will be this Friday morning. We'll begin at 7:30 here. So we do hope that your schedule will allow us to all be together as we do a special program for our team concerning safety. Our Artisan Makers Market is the next day, Saturday the 14th from 2 until 7. We will have the Artisan Makers Market here at City Park. Hope your schedule will allow you to participate with our event staff for that event. And the following week on Thursday evening is our food truck rollout. Again, that will be on the grounds here at City Park from 5 until 8 p.m. on Thursday the 19th. And of course, following that, on that weekend, we are partnering with our Chamber of Commerce for Oktoberfest, for a large community festival, and that will be taking place in the downtown area on Saturday, the 21st. So it's a very, very busy October for us here in the city. Many things for us to look forward to. An item of note, of interest that you may see here in our own council chambers. If you notice that the chairs that our audience is in this evening is a bit different because of wear and tear and use. We certainly have a program of repair and replacement. You've noticed that this event space has been completely repainted. Our flooring has been redone here, our carpet area over the last year, all of our hardwood floor areas and our lobby areas, and the chairs have been replaced here. 9 years of a facility that is being constantly used. It certainly has wear and tear, but you've allowed us through a repair and replacement program for depreciation. We're able to budget for that annually, and it has worked out really well for us. But do note that we brought those in on Friday of last week for the first event for our Chamber of Commerce First Friday luncheon last week. So we're glad to be able to continue to have a nice environment for the folks that use our facility. I do have two items of executive session that I would like to ask council's consideration of. I'd like to also ask council to consider to move executive session on your agenda following this report. There are a number of members of our audience this evening that are here exclusively for one item on your agenda, and we're trying to accommodate many of those folks in the media for deadline purposes, but we also are also trying to provide some additional information from our city attorney as well. So we would like to ask council's consideration. You have an item on your agenda that I would ask you to hold over until after executive session anyway, relative to a contractual matter, and this would accommodate both of those. The two items for executive session, one is an economic development matter specific to our hotel development project and the contract for that project. I am asking your consideration of that in the executive session, and would qualify in executive session under the Freedom of Information Act, Section 30-4, Section 70, Paragraph A, subsections 2 and 5. And also, we need to receive a briefing from our city attorney, provided for under the Freedom of Information Act in Section 30-4-70, Paragraph A, subsection 2. Both of those allowed uses, purposes for freedom of information that I would like to request your consideration this evening. That concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Council, before we consider that request, the item below the administrator's report is simply a notification for appointments to boards and commissions. And the Board of Zoning Appeals in District 4, Kevin Duncan, has resigned effectively immediately. His term ends 6/30/2018. That is an appointment by District 4, so if you please note that. You can bring us more information in that regard. Before we proceed then to items of old business, I'll entertain a motion that we amend the agenda to consider executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussion in that regard? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Airwood?
Yes.
Ms. Bookert?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert? Yes. Mayor Danner?
Yes. Council, in executive session this evening, we have one development matter and, excuse me, Mr. Driggers, I didn't, the others.
One economic development and one legal. The legal is receiving information, a briefing from our city attorney.
One economic development matter and one legal matter. In regards to the economic development matter, pertains to the hotel. That would be under be under Freedom of Information 30-4-7, Paragraph A, subsection 215, and then a legal matter in regards to information from our attorney, which would be covered in section or in 30-4-70, Paragraph A, subsection 2. Those two items would be considered in executive session. Do I hear a motion to adjourn to executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Airwood?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. Bookert?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes. Council, in executive session, we've considered two matters, an economic development matter in regards to hotel development. We've taken no action in that regard, but will as we move forward in the meeting, and a legal matter concerning advice from our attorneys related to the sale of the Allen Bennett Hospital site. We've taken no action in that regard this evening. Having reported that, I'll entertain a motion that we come out of executive session.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Airwood?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. Bookert?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes. Council will move to items of old business, the first of which is the second and final reading of ordinance number 22-2017, an ordinance to provide for the annexation of properties owned by Helen Atkins also known as Helen Westmoreland, located on Burns Road by 100% petition and to establish a zoning classification of R12 for said property. Mr. McMahon, any new information in regards to ordinance number 22-2017 or updates?
No, sir, none at this time.
I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion. Questions? Comments? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Airwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, the second item for approval this evening is the second and final reading of ordinance number 31-2017. This is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of properties owned by D&D Construction and Investment LLC and Doris Properties LLC located at 306 South Buncombe Road by 100% petition and to establish a zoning classification of I-1 for said properties. Any new or additional information in that regard?
Yes, sir, we would like to request to amend the address on the ordinance from 306 South Buncombe to Supermill Road, Buncombe Road. The two parcels are not connected to 306, and we just want to have that kind of tightened up a little bit on the ordinance.
Okay. Council, for the purpose of discussion, I'll entertain a motion to accept the second and final reading of ordinance number 31-2017 if it is amended to reflect corner of Supermill Road and South Buncombe Road. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
And a second?
Second.
Floor is open for discussion.
You said it's not connected to 306.
The
Is that
two
what you said?
parcels are not connected to 306. 306 is the main building there at API. These
Okay.
parcels go along Suber and the corner of Buncombe right there.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
But they're only separated by the parking lot, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Other questions, Mr. McMahon? Comments? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Airwood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
No.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Council, this evening, last item of old business is the second and final reading of ordinance number 38-2017. This is approving a project agreement with Sycamore Greer LLC, authorizing the acquisition and disposition of real property, authorizing the execution and delivery of additional documents or related matters thereof. For the purpose of discussion, I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. The floor is open for discussion. Mr. Driggers, any additional information or updates you may want to give in regards to ordinance number 38-2017?
Yes, sir, if I may. I want to provide some additional information, more specific for the public. As you are aware, as we've discussed in executive session, we have been in negotiations through the end of the day today with Sycamore Greer LLC. The only change that you have to the ordinance for second reading is substituting the project name. It was project name Kaboom, and we have substituted that now with Sycamore Greer LLC, the registered company that we would be doing this project with. The terms of the ordinance remain the same, so there are no changes reflective from our first reading. We do now have in agreement, a development agreement. That's what we were able to review earlier. There's a couple of those items that I would like to share. We do have copies of those for the media. Steve Owens is distributing those. This would be the document that, if you approve second reading, you would be authorizing the mayor to execute that project agreement. And we have been advised that the president, Mr. Yatish Patel, with Sycamore Greer LLC, would be the responsible party for signing on behalf of the development company. A couple things that I wanted to make sure that we are covering, that this agreement is for the redevelopment of various parcels. They are identified in the downtown area, more specifically the area at the corner of Poinsett and Main, the area from Poinsett, Main, fronting to Jason Street, and Jason Street to the rear of to the rear of a parking lot area there by the Spinning Jenny and a public alleyway. It would be the acquisition of about 2.6 acres that would be acquired by the development company. They are under contract for that property, and our development agreement would require that they finish that acquisition as is anticipated in the project. Within the project agreement, there are a number of exhibits that show the development site. It shows the property to be acquired by the developer himself. It shows the area of property that would be acquired by the city. Also shows that area of property that would be transferred from the developer to the city, as well as some public alleyways that ultimately would be closed, and we would be conveying those properties to them. So there's a good bit of property that switches back and forth. They are purchasing all of the site in its entirety, other than that section that we would have responsibility for. They are under agreement for those purchases, and we would anticipate closing soon as a result of our development agreement. In consideration of our agreement, they will build a minimum 100-room facility. We are in the design phase of that project, we are being told, and it is a minimum of 100 rooms, probably no more than 110, but the ultimate design of the site would dictate how many rooms the property would actually have. We know that the developer is advising us that it is a Hilton brand hotel. Our development agreement identifies that as a Hampton Inn. But those final negotiations must be completed between the developer and with the Hilton group. They will make available about 1.5 acres of the 2.6 acres for out parcel development. So there would be private, retail, commercial development on those out parcel sites. Again, those are being identified under the exhibits of the agreement. They will be donating a portion of the property back to us, where we would be building a parking structure. We would agree that we would construct the multi-level parking structure. We would be making available to them a minimum of 90 spaces for the hotel use in that building, in that structure as well. We will be responsible for any adjacent streetscaping, and we would be doing that in concert with our upcoming streetscape project. It is easy for us to be able to go ahead and put that into the design of what we are already under construction with, and those plans moving forward for our redevelopment site downtown. They agree that they will build the hotel. The begin date on that is a minimum of 24 months. We anticipate that the start date would be much sooner than that, but as a matter of the agreement, it has that they would have, that they must begin that construction, including the demolition, within 24 months of our agreement. Again, they will have responsibility for working with a secondary developer for retail development on those off-sites. We will have all rights relative to design considerations. That's in paragraph D of the agreement. We understand that it is important for the character of this project that it would fit in with our downtown, so we are calling for that to be a predominantly brick veneer facility structure. And we certainly have the right to review all elevations and approve those elevation designs as we would continue to move forward. The out parcels, the retail, commercial spaces would have that same requirement as well. They will have responsibility for demolishing all the buildings on the site. and preparing the site for construction. They are also responsible for any environmental concerns relative to the sites that they are acquiring. We would have that same responsibility for the parcel that we are acquiring on Jason Street. We recognize that under definition, this particular property is identified as a blighted property, predominantly because of the abandoned buildings that are on that site. And this is an opportunity for us to be able to eliminate that blight and also eliminate any potential environmental concerns that may be on that site as well. We know then that we will have a clean and clear site as a result of this agreement. As part of our parking agreement, we will lease those spaces to them on a 30-year period. And they will compensate us at $30,000 a year for 30 years for the use of those 90 spaces. We will invest into the site $1.8 million. Of the $1.8 million, our resources will be used for infrastructure and the cost of infrastructure. And we have developed a formula basis that 1.8 would be distributed in the project. So as you can see under paragraph 2, under city commitments, that upon the conveyance of the developer-owned property, the donated property to the city, we would then transfer $325,000. We would transfer an additional $325,000 when they complete the demolition of the entire site. There's another $325,000 that is distributed when they start construction and complete the footer installation for the actual hotel project, and then the final $325,000 totaling for $1.3 million at that point when we issue a certificate of occupancy for the hotel project. They also understand that the remaining balance of the 1.8 commitment that we have will be distributed upon the development of the out parcels, the retail commercial space, with $250,000 of that being distributed with the first certificate of occupancy on the out parcels, and the remaining final distribution, $250,000, would be done at the last CO certificate of occupancy for the development of that property. So our 1.8 investment, all in infrastructure, must be verifiable. We have the opportunity to confirm how all of those dollars are spent in infrastructure with the distribution under the formula that I just described. We will have responsibility for constructing the parking structure. We are anticipating that will be an approximately 300 space parking garage. So about approximately 210 spaces being available for use in our downtown area, and restricting 90 of those spaces under our parking agreement with the hotel. We will have responsibility for constructing the pedestrian alleyway that would connect the garage both to Cannon Street and to Main Street. We would have responsibility for constructing that adjacent to our garage. All other really provisions of the document are mostly legalese. They describe our agreements so that we clearly understand the responsibilities that the developer has, as well as we understand the responsibilities that then fall back to the city. Again, exhibits identifying the location of the properties, identifying what the developer has responsibility for, what we have responsibility for, and of course the agreement outlining the project descriptions in its entirety is made available, and that's what we've been negotiating through today with Sycamore Greer LLC. It has been a very long process. We were saying earlier, someone was asking, how long have we really been working on this site? We first entertained development of this property back in 2013. And so this has been a very, very long process for us, as well as for a potential developer, and ultimately communications and conversations with Sycamore Greer LLC. They have been a great partner through this negotiation process. It is a business relationship between us and with them, but we certainly see benefit to the community long term. We will be placing that entire property at a much improved assessed value on our tax rolls. We will be receiving business license revenue, accommodations and hospitality revenue from that project. We will have development of retail space and the ultimate tax base that it will provide for us as well as we believe that it will be a very, very strong anchor for us in our downtown area. We are excited for this project and for this opportunity. It's been a long time in the making, and we believe with council's approval, we will work very quickly, and we will work very well with the developer in the design not only of our first parking structure for the city of Greer, but also for us welcoming a hotel back to downtown Greer. We must remember, as we talk about preserving the history of our city had a downtown hotel, and we lost it many years ago, and this is an opportunity for us to bring that back as part of a vibrant downtown. Economic development, obviously Mr. Deaton has been very, very involved in this process and has been a great partner with us through Greer Development Corporation. We could not have gotten to the stage where we are without their assistance. Mayor Danner has been extremely involved in this process and has worked tirelessly as we have continued to negotiate these agreements. And to all of council, your commitment to our downtown and your commitment to making sure that we had a strong agreement to protect the interest of our community. I heard you loud and clear. You gave one predominant message as we worked through this process, and that would be that the bonds required for this project would not require a tax increase to the citizens of our community or to our businesses, and this project will not. We will be able to absorb the requirement for the bond indebtedness for these projects through the normal operating budget of our city going forward. So we will be issuing and bringing to you at our next meeting a bond ordinance allowing us to issue a minimum of $10 million in bonds. That amount could shift somewhere between the $10, $11, $12 million range. We are finalizing those numbers now with our financial consultants, but we will be bringing that to you at your next meeting for first reading, and that would be the next step in this process. So we enthusiastically bring this to you for your consideration, and certainly available to answer any questions that council may have relative to the project.
Thank you, sir, and appreciate the update on that. I would ask Mr. Sell if he would to, I think Mr. Owens had a few more of these bullet point synopsis here. If you will see that a few of them get laid there on the counter with the clerk. I noticed that some people seemed a little overwhelmed by some of the information. This may help them have a better summary of it as we move forward, and it will make those available to anybody that's here this evening that wants to pick one up to have that. Council, this is the second and final reading of ordinance number 38-2017. Having heard this explanation and hopefully had time to review the documentation, I'll open the floor for discussion. Comments? Questions?
Well, I'd like to thank you and Mr. Driggers and staff for your outstanding work on this project. I think it's going to be good for the city.
Thank you, sir. I don't know if Mr. Bettis was writing the Wayfarer Inn down, or he was reminiscing about something, I believe, over there.
That was a little ironic that actually my father was responsible for having that hotel torn down.
A little irony in that.
Just say he was paving the way for the future.
That's right. That's right.
But it's not lost on us that it's almost within the same block. So, history does repeat itself in some regard, doesn't it?
That's funny.
Council, I do want to say that as we move forward with this project and the other projects that you have approved for our downtown area, we truly are on the cusp of a new era for the city of Greer. And you are be commended for your vision in that regard as well, too. This is a plan that we started on back in 1998, and whenever you arrived on council, you have embraced a plan that we have worked diligently and sincerely on, and with the help of with those of you that sit at this table and our administrator and certainly the efforts of GDC and others, we now see the fruits of those efforts, and will continue to see in what is going to be, I think, I hate to even use the word revitalization of our downtown, because it's not necessarily a revitalization as much as it is an extension of the vitalization that we have seen over the last 15 years. And I truly believe that the changes that you're going to see that are going to take place in the next decade in our downtown as a result of some of the decisions that you've made in the last 24 months and will continue to make in the coming days ahead, will leave a positive mark on the city of Greer that our children and grandchildren are going to enjoy and savor until the point that someone comes along and thinks better of our ideas. And so, anybody else? Final call on ordinance number 38, 2017. Ms. Duncan.
Mr. Arrowood.
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Ms. Booker.
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Ms. Albert.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. We'll move to items of new business, the first of which is a review of the 2018 City of Greer road paving list, and Mr. Grant will present that to us, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Here to talk about or present our 2018 paving program. But before I get into that, a quick review of update of the 2017 program. Spartanburg County has paved the Spartanburg side of the streets back in June of this year. And Greenville County has not started yet, but expected them to give me a start date any day now. Expecting that to be in October or November this year, but they have not started. As far as our 2018 program, I do have some notes to share on the screen, and also I think they're in your file, that are relevant to that I need to share with you before we go forward. And the PCI, just as a reminder, is the Pavement Condition Index from the 2016 City Street Condition Evaluation by Transmap. We will be evaluating the streets every 4 years, and the next planned evaluation is 2020. Our paving priority is paving the worst first. The oldest and worst condition streets are near the center of the city, and I'll have a map up in just a second to show you that, but that makes sense. If they're the oldest streets, typically they would be in the worst condition. Districts 1, 2, and 5 are nearest the center of the city and have the most streets on the list. Districts 3, 4, and 6 are more outlying areas of the city, and they'll have fewer streets on the list. Over time, I do plan to incorporate some other types of pavement maintenance into our program, such as crack sealing and slurry sealing, to extend pavement life. These methods are typically a little less costly than mill and overlay resurfacing. And I am collaborating with both Greenville County and Spartanburg County, and we're comparing notes and best practices so that we get the best product for our taxpayers in all three jurisdictions. Also, I'm going to propose some full-depth patching in Brushy Meadows and St. James Place. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. This is the overall PCI view of the city. As I mentioned earlier, the PCI in the lower left corner, the colors represent the condition of the pavements, with the yellows, oranges, and reds are concentrated near the center of the city. That indicates the streets in the less desirable condition, and then the greens that you see are more spread out around the perimeters of the city. This is a view of the PCI by district, and you can see districts 1, 2, and 5 encompass most of the center. That would be the purple, the gray, and the yellow shading is more near the center of the city, and districts 3, 4, and 6 are more on the perimeter as shown on the map. I mentioned full depth patching in St. James Place and Brushy Meadows. Here are some pictures. We've got about 400 feet of significant cracking in St. James Place. These are not run-of-the-mill hairline block cracking. These cracks are 1 to 2 inches wide, and in St. James Place they're a couple inches deep. But again, we've got about 400 feet in there that we need to address. In Brushy Meadows, we've got about 1,000 feet total, and these cracks, these pictures kind of speak for themselves. The one picture there, that crack is 4 inches deep and 1 inch wide, and you can see a couple of other pictures from Brushy Meadows. And then here's another slide of another set of cracks. This one's a full 2 inches wide and 4 to 5 inches deep. So these are very unusually large cracks, and these pictures kind of speak to why we need to address these.
Mr. Grant, is that a compaction issue prior to the asphalt going down, or is that a condition of the asphalt not being applied
I think it's a
correctly?
combination. Like right here, I believe these are probably a compaction issue with utilities, either a gas line, water line, sewer line, or something settled over time. And that's probably, I'm guessing, half of them. The other half, I believe, are just maybe something was wrong with the mix of the pavement. Maybe it was cold that day when they put it in. I'm not sure, but it's just some very large and unusual cracks that went all the way through the pavement down to the subgrade layer. So never really seen cracks 4 inches deep that I could stick basically my whole hand down into the pavement. So just unusually large cracks. And of course they collect water, and even had a report that one of the children in the neighborhood got their skateboard wheel caught in the crack or something. And so if your skateboard wheel falls into the crack and gets stuck, it's a pretty big crack. First I want to talk about our Spartanburg list. Just going left to right on the columns, the main ones you'll see there is the street name, the location, the area that it's in, the beginning and ending point, the length of the street and the width, and then the PCI score and the probable funding year and estimated cost. I will note that Spartanburg County does their own evaluation. They'll do their own score and give it their own internal score, and they require their score to be 50 or less before they will entertain repaving, so they'll be doing their own score on top of ours. I do expect $140,000 approximately in the Spartanburg side for paving this year. Approximately $70,000 of that will come from the road fee funds we get from Spartanburg County, and the other $70,000 will be proposed to come from the Spartanburg CTC. Those funds should be able to pay approximately the upper 2/3 of that list. Are there any questions on the Spartanburg before I move to Greenville? Okay, the Greenville list is the same format and layout, the street name, the location and area, and the beginning and ending point, the length and width of the road, and the PCI scores, and the probable funding years and the cost. For Greenville, we expect about $500,000 in funding. Approximately $250,000 will come from the Greenville road fee, and $250,000 from the Greenville Legislative Delegation Transportation Committee. That should cover the top 2/3 of that list as well. If you will note in the gray shading, that is some highlighting of the St. James Place and the Brushy Meadows, the cracks. What I'd like to propose, well, we have some unallocated paving funds from previous fiscal years, and I've talked to David Seifert, our finance director, about this, and so what we'd like to do is address these large cracks as soon as possible and not wait another full year to get these addressed. So what we're proposing is that we use some of that funding to go ahead and fund the full depth patching portion of the list and move these two areas up to the 2017 program, which, as I mentioned earlier, has not started yet in Greenville. They'll be starting in sometime this month or November. So that way we don't have to wait a year to address these large cracks. I do have unit prices for full depth patching in the 2017 contract, and I expect the cost for both of these areas to be approximately $42,000. But again, this allows us to address those sooner rather than later. So in summary, we have a list for Spartanburg County Spartanburg County side and the list for the Greenville County side for 2018, but I also like to propose just the full depth patching portion that you have in gray, that you see highlighted in gray. I'd like to propose we allow us to use those unallocated funds and use those in the 2017 program. That's all I have. I'll be glad to entertain any questions.
Thank you, sir. Council, on the recommendation of the city engineer, I'll entertain the motion to receive the 2018 City of Greer road paving list.
So motion.
Have a motion and a second. Further questions? Comments? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Council, second item of new business this evening is the first reading of ordinance number 34-2017. This is an ordinance to change the zoning classification of properties owned by Nehemiah Community Revitalization Corporation located on Oakland Avenue from C2 commercial to R7.5. Mr. McMahon, can you give us an update and information in regards to ordinance number 34-2017?
Yes, sir. This is a rezoning request for two parcels located on Oakland Avenue, requesting a rezoning from C2 commercial to R7.5 single-family residential. The Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on September 18th for the rezoning of these parcels. Planning Commission motioned to approve. The purpose is to redevelop these parcels for residential use. That's all that I have at this time. We'll be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
By show of hand, is the owner of the property or a representative of the owner of the property with us this evening? Let the record indicate nobody noted so. I'll entertain a motion to receive 34-2017.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion. Questions? Comments? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. First reading of ordinance number 35-2017, an ordinance to change the zoning classification of property owned by Curtis and Gwen Hawkins and Meredith Shannon located at 906 South Buncombe Road from R15 to C2. Mr. McMahon, information in that regard, please.
Yes, sir. This is a rezoning request for the property located at 906 South Buncombe Road, requesting rezoning from R15 single family to C2 commercial. The Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on September 18th for the rezoning of this parcel. Planning Commission motioned to approve. The property owner plans to sell this property and the adjacent property as commercial. That's all I have at this time. We'll be happy to answer any questions council may have.
By show of hand, is the owner of the property or a representative of the owner of the property with us this evening? Record indicate no one appeared in that regard. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Arrowood made the motion, Mr. Bettis seconded.
Two motions.
Floor is open for discussion. Questions? Comments? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. I have the first reading of ordinance number 36-2017. This is an ordinance to change the zoning classification of properties owned by C. Allen Fowler located at 3381 and 3375 Brushy Creek Road from OD, which is Office District, to S1, Service District. Mr. McMahon?
Yes, sir. This is a rezoning request for property located at 3381 and 3375 Brush Creek Road, requesting rezoning from OD to S1 Services. Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on September 18th for the rezoning of this parcel. The Planning Commission motioned to approve. The purpose is to reflect what is currently operating within this warehouse. The house that is located at 3381 is a non-conforming use at this time and will remain non-conforming until they vacate the property for the ordinance time. It is 90 days. Once they vacate it for 90 days, they'll have to have it. It will switch to S1 Services.
By show of hand, is the owner of the property or representative of the owner of the property with us this evening? Record indicate no one appeared to be. I'll entertain a motion to receive, one at a time, please.
So moved.
Second.
Now we have it. There we go.
Very good job.
Floor's open for discussion. Tell me one more time, it's two separate parcels.
Yes, sir. Both these parcels are currently zoned OD. The house that is located at 3381 has been in non-conforming use, so that allows them to remain a residence until they vacate the property for 90 days in accordance with our ordinance. Once they do that, that property will automatically go to S1, and they will have to use that property as S1 property.
Okay, was the intended use discussed?
The intended use for this property, I believe for this one, the gentleman that is running the warehouse has a boat fixing type thing. He does antique boats. He's got like racing boats and stuff. They're just kind of storing at the warehouse and slowly fixing them as he goes.
Okay.
A warehouse will be constructed there? I know, if I'm thinking about the right property, there's a setback from the road. There is a building there. I think they had furniture sales in there at one time or something, and been used for different items. So when you talk about, are they going to be enlarging that building? Will the boats be out?
No, ma'am. Though it's going to remain the same. The boats should be stored inside. We've discussed that with the tenant.
I figured they have to be, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And this particular piece of property, I think it's been for sale for a number of years.
Yes, sir.
It's been a number of different things, too.
And so you're saying he's going to do, now what were you saying about the boats? He's going to be working on boats and
He
such?
does antique boat repair. I went by and looked at a couple of them. They're like the old-timey, like wooden captain-type boats is what he was working on. He had one of like the high-powered racing boats that you kind of see, I guess, on Saturday afternoons on TV when nothing else is showing on. That kind of shoot up into the air sometimes.
So if is he going to be using this as a business then?
It will be a business, yes, sir.
But why is he attempting to change the zoning?
Currently,
it says from C2 to RM2. Right?
No, this
No,
one
this
is
No, this is OD.
Sorry, I must be on the
S1.
wrong one. I was going to say that made no sense.
Yeah, this is the house.
Yeah,
The
S1,
house
that
right there is
means that he's
non-conforming.
just, S1, what all entails S1?
S1 is a service district. It allows them to, I don't have the ordinance with me, but there's a list of services they are allowed to provide, operate in that area.
Contractors of all kinds. Warehouse.
Okay, because I know there's a church across the street from it, so I'm just wondering about the,
Apartments.
what all will be going on there. But if it's just servicing the antique boat inside the building, just like they sell furniture there, it shouldn't make any difference.
Further questions? Comments? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. First reading of ordinance number 37-2017. This is an ordinance to change the zoning classification of property owned by Able Holdings LLC located at 318 Pennsylvania Avenue from C2 to RM2. Mr. McMahon?
Yes, sir. This is a rezoning request for property located at 318 Pennsylvania Avenue, requesting rezoning from C2 commercial to RM2 multifamily residential. The Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on September 18th for the rezoning of this parcel. The Planning Commission motioned to approve. The purpose is to allow the building there at the corner of Pennsylvania, right where the Back Home Cafe is, the two-story building directly across from it, to be redeveloped as multifamily / boarding house. That's all I have at this time, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
By show of hand, is the owner of the property or representative of the owner of the property with us this evening? Let the record indicate that someone did say they were here in regards to that. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion.
This is what I was talking about. I jumped ahead of you, and so that's why I was so confused on the last one, but I'm with you. now.
Yes, sir.
This makes sense.
Others? Anything you'd like to add to the discussion, sir? Good. Comments, questions, additional information?
Is this turning the building that's there now into a multifamily residence? Is that,
Yes, ma'am.
and you said a boarding house type?
The applicant has said it will be kind of used as multi-family / potential boarding house facility. He'll have to bring it up to code, and he'll have to do all of that before we will allow him to occupy that building.
Others? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. First reading of ordinance number 39-2017, an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property owned by Randy Vaughn and Donna Vaughn, located on Westmoreland Road by 100% petition, and to establish a zoning classification of R10 for said property. Mr. McMahon?
Yes, sir. This is an annexation and zoning request for property located on Westmoreland Road across from Bent Creek Plantation that is requesting a zoning classification of R10 single family. This parcel contains 6.01 acres with the purpose to construct a new subdivision. Subject property is currently vacant. The Planning Commission will hold a public hearing on October 16th for the zoning of this parcel. This was previously brought before council last year. It was July of 2016 for first reading. From that point, it was put on hold for second reading. It's been over a year, so we are asking the applicant to go through the complete process again. That's all I have at this time. We'll be happy to answer any questions council may have.
By show of hand, is the owner of the property or representative of the owner of the property with us this evening? And let the record state that someone was. I'll entertain a motion to receive 39-2017.
So motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion. Questions?
What was the issue that was unresolved last time when this came through?
I believe they were trying to work on a sewer issue.
It's a sewer provider issue.
And
they-
get that laid out.
And that's been resolved?
Right.
Yes, sir. To my understanding, all that has been resolved.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So y'all are ready to go now, huh? Finally. We will. We thank you for coming back again. Others, questions in regards to ordinance number 39-2017? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. First reading of ordinance number 40-2017, an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property owned by Sherry Suddeth, Scott Satterfield, Casey Satterfield, Cody Satterfield, located at 612 Westmoreland Road by 100% petition, and to establish a zoning classification of R10 for said property. Mr. McMahon?
Thank you, sir. This is an annexation and zoning request for property located on Westmoreland Road across from Bent Creek Plantation. That is requested zoning classification of R10 containing 6.01 acres with the purpose to construct a new subdivision. The subject property is currently occupied with a single-family residence. Planning Commission will conduct a public hearing on October 16th for the zoning of this parcel. This parcel is also tied to the 2016 ordinance also, and this is the adjacent property directly next to the ordinance that was just passed.
By show of, go ahead, excuse me, I'm sorry.
That's all I have at this time. We'll be happy to answer any questions.
By show of hand, is the owner of the property or representative of the owner of the property with us this evening? Let the record indicate so. Entertain a motion to receive 40-2017.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion. Questions? Comments? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Ms. Booker.
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Ms. Albert.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. We thank you for your indulgence this evening. We stand adjourned.